Alright, time has come. This is the big what needs to be fixed in Battlefield 6 video. This is going to be basically a culmination of all my playtime in Battlefield 6 so far. We're going to be talking about so many different topics in this video. I'll leave timestamps in the description for particular sections if you guys are interested in that. I will just apologize up front. It is going to be almost impossible for me to cover every single little thing you guys are expecting to be in this video, so if I left some things out, I apologize. You know, I have a big list in front of me here. I tried to cover all the big stuff. But I'm also going to be covering a lot of lesser known issues that should be big issues and should have a lot more push behind them. So let's get into things. No idea how long this video is going to be, but it's going to be as long as it needs to be, you know? So hit the like button, hit the sub button, swing by the streams. I stream every single day at twitch.tv/enders. First link in the description, and I stream on this YouTube channel every day as well. Before I get into any specific topic, I just want to say that we're still back, right? Because that was the whole big talking point, like, oh, Battlefield is back, we're so back, all that sort of stuff. We are still back. That's true. But in my opinion, we aren't as back as I initially thought. And that was bound to happen. The more you play the game, the more experience you put under your belt, the more you figure stuff out, and the more you realize how things are balanced, or just little tiny things that maybe are a little bit overtuned, or a little bit underpowered, or things that need to be changed. But unfortunately, in my opinion, quite a few of Battlefield 6's problems require solutions that are unlikely to happen. That isn't to say they're not going to be addressed, I just don't necessarily think the correct course of action will be taken. But nevertheless, for the sake of the very important Battlefield discussion, I will give my opinion anyway. And of course, feel free to discuss any topics in the comment section as well. The first section of this video is going to have to do with the infantry gameplay. We'll touch on vehicles a little bit later. But in my experience playing Battlefield 6, I've noticed from my own playtime and from a lot of other people's opinions that people say that Battlefield 6 is just a really annoying solo experience, and that can be very frustrating to play. And this is an extremely multifaceted sort of thing. But generally what I find is happening is the visibility isn't too great. The audio just got updated, but it isn't perfect. Like, you can hear footsteps now, but the problem I feel I'm facing is I hear the steps, but I can't place the steps, especially if they're vertical, right? If someone's above me or below me, it just sounds like they're to the left or right. And what this all culminates to is essentially there is a lack of very clear information, so it's very hard to make the correct decisions, which means you make mistakes, which leads to you dying, which contributes to the frustration. Now, that is part of why I think Battlefield 6 is a frustrating game to some people. The other side of it is, well, there's no getting around it, Battlefield 6 doesn't really take that much skill to play. And again, this is a very multifaceted thing, but generally speaking, there's a lot of elements within Battlefield 6's design that heavily compress the skill gap of the game. And I know some people listening to this are going to jump down my throat immediately and go, oh, skill gap, I'm closing the video. Don't do that just yet. I really feel that I understand what I'm talking about here, and I feel as though this isn't talked about nearly enough. Before I go into massive detail here, I just have to really emphasize up front, I'm not trying to make the game fucking Titanfall 3, okay? I'm not trying to add anything. I'm not trying to make it crazy. I'm just trying to change a few elements here or there that honestly don't make any sense and heavily impact really the sense the gameplay makes. For instance, the headshot multipliers. Please tell me why headshot multipliers are so low in this game. The base headshot multiplier is 1.34. Headshots are not rewarded, which means that good aim isn't rewarded nearly as much as it really should be, and certainly not as much as previous Battlefield games. And I know people will say, well, there are hollow point rounds in the game. There is synthetic tip, but even equipping hollow point and synthetic tip on a lot of weapons in the game don't have a massive impact, and the headshot multiplier is just low enough on most of the weapons, even with these ammo types equipped, to not really matter. The solution to this is really straightforward, but as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it is extremely unlikely to happen. The solution is to increase the base headshot multiplier. Okay, well, that seems pretty simple. Why haven't they done it? Well, they haven't done it because of the ammo types that increase the headshot multipliers. they are essentially between a rock and a hard place. They're going to have to remove or completely rebalance hollow point and synthetic tip and make them do something different, and then, and only then, can they increase the base headshot multipliers in the game so that headshots are rewarded. But then it's even more complicated than that, because if you increase the base headshot multiplier, you probably have to rebalance a lot of the damage models for every single weapon in the entire game, for both multiplayer and for RedSec. And while we're on the topic of damage model, I would like to discuss the fact that after a long time playing Battlefield 6, I've come to the conclusion that I actually really hate the close range fights in this game and the damage models of some of these weapons. I don't think 3 bullet to kill full auto weapons should be in the game. I think the close quarters TTK is definitely too fast. Weapons that are key offenders of this are, of course, the SCW-10, which is the fastest full auto killing weapon in the game, the NVO, the SG-553R, and most other 3 BTK weapons in the game. I think the time to kill up close is just ever so slightly too fast, and I think that really hinders the close range enjoyability of actually playing the game, because you can just get instantaneously blitzed without even having a chance to react. And I understand Battlefield has had traditionally really fast time to kill within close quarters, but not this fast. Not 150 milliseconds fast. It makes the gameplay feel a little bit cheap. Now, the solution to this is, again, fairly straightforward, but I don't think we're going to actually get it anytime soon. They would have to rebalance a lot of the damage models for every single weapon in the game. This would effectively be a TTK pass. You can't really just add 1 bullet to kill to all of the 3 BTK weapons, because, well, that doesn't balance it against everything else. The way everything is set up right now is very delicate, and does take into account that some weapons have a 3 bullet to kill damage range. If you just delete that damage range without rebalancing everything else, you just make a lot of weapons complete dog shit. And we don't want that. So, TLDR, I think Battlefield 6's close quarters time to kill in particular could deal with just some dialing back. A single notch, okay? Not talking about anything crazy, but maybe I am, because this would be a much larger undertaking than it appears on the surface level. The other thing heavily impacting Battlefield 6's gameplay is the fact that Battlefield 6 has an extremely small mechanical skill gap. What do I mean by that? So, obviously, this is an FPS game. You have the positioning skill gap, awareness, all that sort of stuff, and then you have the raw mechanics of the gameplay itself. This would be something like learning how to slide, or learning how to jump, or learning how to shoot your gun properly. These are the mechanics that make up the base gameplay of the game. At its core, Battlefield 6 has the potential, in my opinion, to be the best Battlefield game ever when it comes to infantry gameplay. The problem is, when you try to use any of the gameplay mechanics, you're just heavily penalized for even attempting to do so. And that is where the problem lies. When you look at the movement of the game, the movement itself is totally fine. I don't care that this is, I think, the slowest sprint speed Battlefield game ever. That isn't the problem. The slide is fine, the jumping is fine, the crouching is fine. It's just, you can't use any of it because the game, well, fucking kills you for trying to do that. And that is the issue. So, how do we fix this, or how do we open up the game's skill gap slightly so it has more depth, so it's more comparable to how previous Battlefield games were? The solution is, once again, very simple, and for once, actually really attainable. You need to address the way aim down sights penalties and sway is handled in Battlefield 6. Battlefield 6 has a fuckload of sway. In fact, it has the most sway out of any Battlefield ever made. And the best way is to just show you all of this, so let's jump into the game. So, taking a look at just the crazy amount of sway present in Battlefield 6, I'm going to show you multiple examples, just starting out with simply aiming down sights. In Battlefield 6, there is aim down sights idle sway for doing nothing. I mean, I'm just trying to hold a corner here, you could be holding an angle, and you have sway. Then, God forbid, you add strafing to that. You now have idle sway combined with a tiny little figure 8 pattern for horizontal sway on top of that. Now, these tiny, minute sight sway things might not seem like a big deal, but they are a super big deal because of one extremely important interaction, which I will now show you. On your screen right now is a big crosshair that shows true screen center, and this is important because you need to understand where your bullets actually go in Battlefield 6. A lot of you might think they just always go to your screen center and that your sight is always the screen center. This is not the case. In Battlefield 6, all of these sight movements you're seeing actively affect where your bullets go, because in Battlefield 6, the point of aim, or where your bullets go, is always attached to your sight. This means every single movement your sight does affects where you aim, even idle sway, and even strafing, all that sort of stuff. And this sway really does affect you way more than you may realize, because, I mean, look at this. Say you're trying to walk up the staircase. Oh, it's affecting where you're aiming. And again, this might not seem like a big thing, but imagine you're trying to push somebody and you need to react immediately, and his head's right here, and you're aiming down sights walking up the stairs, and it bounces your crosshair just ever so slightly above that guy's head, and you miss one bullet, and that's enough for you to die. The TLDR here is, I really feel like if they just, get rid of all this sight sway jank, the game would feel significantly better and way more locked in, way more how a Battlefield game should feel to play. So there's the aim down sight sway covered. Now, what other elements do I think hinder Battlefield 6's skill or just make the game a little bit too easy? Well, one is I think muzzle velocity in this game is completely out of control, and I'll throw in projectile velocity as well. You have assault rifles reaching over 1,000 meters per second muzzle velocity, sniper rifles easily over 1,000 meters per second as well, and then if you look at RPGs and free fire rockets and tow missiles, the tow missiles are too easy to hit, they're too easy to manipulate in the air, and RPGs are also too easy to hit, they're too fast. All of this was done for one reason: the Battle Royale. I believe the muzzle velocity and the fact that RPGs are really easy to hit was done for the Battle Royale to make it so basically free-to-play players can hit shots at range more easily. That's really what I think. It was done to casualize the game even further, make things slightly easier at range. The solution to this is, again, very simple. You just reduce the fucking velocities. Do I think they're going to do that? Absolutely not. Another thing that I don't think will be addressed, unfortunately, is just how overpowered sniping is. And yes, I'm just going to call it what it is. It's fucking insanely broken. It's the most overpowered Battlefield sniping ever, even compared to Battlefield 1. You have damn near hit scan muzzle velocity, over 1,000 meters per second. I think the Mini Scout sits at 1,100 meters per second muzzle velocity. You have sweet spots, which of course just give people accidental free kills. There's no suppression in the game, so you can't suppress snipers. When you shoot a sniper, there's no flinch in the sniper scope, so they headshot you anyway. If that wasn't enough, you can just equip the rangefinder, go into your key bindings, and basically bind it so that your range is set for every single shot you take, so you don't even have to worry about accounting for bullet drop manually anymore. And just to top it all off, there's a perk for the Recon class where if you headshot somebody with a bolt action, they cannot be revived, and you can equip frangible rounds, which reduce health regeneration. Sniping in this game needs to be really addressed. It is far, far too easy. And the last thing I will add in this section of this video has to do with controller and how certain things are balanced with it. And I'm actually not going to be talking about aim assist. I'm going to be talking about the 25% recoil reduction controller players get in Battlefield 6. Everyone knows it. You can tell a lot of the times when a controller player is shooting at you because of that recoil reduction. Controller players can beam out to range really, really well. It is incredibly abnormal for a game to feature aim assist and controller-specific recoil reduction all in one. You do not need the recoil reduction in this game on controller. The gunplay is already laser beamy, the recoil isn't that insane, the hit rate, or the amount of shots you can easily hit at range in this game, is far higher than previous Battlefield games, even without the recoil reduction on controller. So again, I really feel as though this is something people aren't talking about enough. Remove controller recoil reduction. I'm gonna get shit on and like, oh, of course the PC player's asking for this, blah, blah, blah. It is what it is. The knowers know. That's all I'm gonna say. If you know, you know. You don't need that recoil reduction. The second part of this video is going to be talking about Battlefield 6's vehicles, which is undoubtedly one of the largest areas in Battlefield 6 that needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, I don't really think it's going to be addressed in the way that it needs to be. Guys, I hate to break it to you, I genuinely feel as though Battlefield 6's vehicles need to be completely and totally overhauled from the ground up. I'm talking mechanic overhaul, fucking balance overhaul, gravity physics overhaul, everything about them. Whenever I play in a vehicle in Battlefield 6, I'm like, damn, there's major shit wrong with this. You ever fly a helicopter in this game? The physics are totally off. You get in a tank, there's like 4 different turret sensitivities based on what perspective you're in. First person, third person, zoom. It's a total mess. And that isn't even taking into account the amount of bugs that are present in gameplay, which funnily enough have been semi-essential for even staying alive in certain vehicles. Silk, who comes in my channel regularly, jokes about using the invincibility skybox bug in jets to stay alive all the time. He has to fly in the skybox to avoid missiles to even get jet gameplay. This is the state of Battlefield 6 fucking vehicle design. What I think DICE will eventually do is maybe they'll come out with some community posts and some patches, some vehicle-centric patches to really give some of these vehicles a pass, but I don't think it'll be enough. I really feel like the mechanics are totally off, the physics are totally off, and we need to start over. And I don't think they're going to do that. Ideally, they would make them, again, like Battlefield 4's vehicles. Undoubtedly, the best vehicles we have ever seen in franchise history. They had the best feel, they had the most depth, they were the best balanced, even if people want to disagree about it like attack jets or attack helicopters, some very minute changes can be made, but in general, the DICE developers have always had a fantastic reference for how vehicles should be with some previous Battlefield titles, and they just drop the ball with vehicle design every single time. I am firmly of the belief that we have not had vehicles as good as Battlefield 4's since Battlefield 4, okay? BF5's fell short, 2042's fell short, BF6, BF1, and it just doesn't have to be this way. There's so many weird in-between things with the vehicle design that are like half milsim, half Battlefield, trying to recreate, I guess, a sense of realism or something, and it just doesn't work. It feels like shit. So in terms of Battlefield 6 vehicles, I think a full overhaul for balance, mechanics, the whole 9 yards is in order, and I doubt we're going to get that. The next thing I'll touch on is the maps, and I'll touch on the content frequency and how that could potentially be an issue, as we're almost seeing right now, depending on what's going to happen in the future. But the maps. The maps in this game, they're okay. I don't think I'm too thrilled with the maps. I think I've seen the same sentiment from quite a few people online. I would say my current favorite map in the game overall is Siege of Cairo. I think it plays well on Conquest and Escalation and Domination and even Breakthrough, and I'll touch on game modes later in the video. But Siege of Cairo would be my favorite map. I think Eastwood is fine. I think Season 1's maps were overall, could be better. Blackwell Fields is, I think, a complete disgrace. Eastwood saved Season 1's content there a little bit. Overall, Battlefield 6's maps right now, I would struggle to say there is a single map I would carry over into another Battlefield game, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think there is a single standout, like, holy shit, this is like a generational map. We'll be talking about this for like a decade. Like, oh, remember so-and-so map from Battlefield 6? So the maps are good. Some are quite bad. I wouldn't say there's anything too spectacular. One of the biggest talking points regarding the maps is the fact that the community feels as though the maps are too small and we need more larger maps. And there have been multiple comparisons between BF6's map sizes and previous Battlefield titles. And yes, it is very clear that Battlefield 6's map size overall is certainly smaller compared to previous titles, but the developers have said they're going to be bringing larger maps to Battlefield 6 in the future. The question is, how large? I think a certain section of the Battlefield community expects DICE to just put out, like, only large maps because this is Battlefield. But I think that's a very narrow viewpoint, and I think when looking at a modern Battlefield game, of course Battlefield is going to produce smaller maps. They want a larger player base. Do you honestly think these COD players coming over are going to run around maps larger than Mirak Valley? They aren't. And I understand some people will say, well, why should we be catering to other player bases? We should be caring about Battlefield players only. And I get it to a certain extent, but I try to look at things in a more realistic way. And I think the reality is less people play those larger maps. And therefore, I think we'll see less of them in Battlefield 6. Now, briefly touching on content per season here, Season 1 featured 2 new maps, a couple new weapons, assignments, Winter Offensive, which is going on right now, yada, yada, yada. I think the content per season is still too low. Now, we have yet to see what Season 2 holds. Maybe there will be more than 2 maps per season, but I think at a bare minimum, we need 3 maps per season with new weapons and assignments and challenges and all the other things that come with a new season. Reason being is I think content pacing really matters, and with a game like Battlefield, people get tired of things really quickly. This isn't a game like Counter-Strike or something like that, where the gameplay is really competitively driven and you're supposed to learn everything and compete and get better and all that sort of stuff. No, Battlefield is a lot more simple. People play the game, they want to see the new maps, maybe a new game mode, maybe some new weapons, and there needs to be enough quantity of new things to carry people's interest over at least longish enough to the next season. And I don't think the quantity of content is there right now. I don't think 2 maps per season is going to tide people over until the next season. I think a lot of people have already stopped playing Battlefield 6 and are waiting for the new season to come out. Because frankly, well, they got bored. And perhaps if there was more new stuff, they wouldn't get bored. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever see the amount of content Battlefield got during those premium-era Battlefield games ever again. And it is truly a tragedy. Jumping over to talk about game modes briefly, I feel as though Breakthrough is in its worst state ever. They need to revert the recent patch that just made Breakthrough defense pretty much unplayable. I feel like Conquest is in a good spot now that they raised the ticket count. I feel like Escalation is a new good addition as a game mode to Battlefield. Domination is solid. I've had quite a bit of fun playing Domination and King of the Hill. Rush is still very sadly a shadow of its former self. I don't think we'll ever get the nostalgic feel of Battlefield 3 Rush back or BC2 Rush ever again. I think Rush is pretty much a dead game mode. Maybe eventually they'll overhaul it and, completely redesign some map areas specifically for Rush, but I think that's a pipe dream. So I think the core game modes are fine, aside from Breakthrough right now. It needs major changes regarding sector design, out-of-bounds areas, fucking vehicle balance, the whole 9 yards. The problem is, there are just too many game modes sometimes. Does anyone else feel this way? I feel like there are just 500 game modes that have 20 people queuing them. And then, of course, we have the main game modes, which I previously mentioned. This has been a problem for a long time. It just feels like every new Battlefield game, there are just more and more game modes they try to push all at once. And it eventually just gets to be way too much. Now, moving on to the rest of the topics regarding the gameplay of Battlefield 6, this will include netcode, audio, visibility, all that sort of stuff. But first, I actually want to touch on classes. I feel like Recon is in a fine spot. Support is very obviously the strongest class in the game. I feel like Engineer is in a decent spot. And then Assault is just kind of this weird man out. Yes, it has redeeming qualities. It has the Assault Ladder and the Grenade Launcher and the Spawn Beacon. But my god, the Assault Stim is absolute trash. Give it a heal, for crying out loud. I mean, you want to make the class viable? You want to make the class the front line of the operation, like the dev said? Give this Stim a fucking heal. It's not going to be the end of the world. Support is already the uncontested most dominant class in the game, and the only way to really fix it is to basically break support up and then redesign the entire class system. That's not going to happen. So the better option is buff Assault and maybe make some very minute changes to support. And then I'm just going to fire through some quick things here that, of course, I have to mention in this video. Make netcode improvements, particularly crossplay netcode. I'm dying to console players 35 feet around corners. I'm sure this has happened to every single person that has played Battlefield 6. The developers have acknowledged netcode. Hopefully there will be more word on what fixes are coming for it soon. Audio. Audio got better in a recent update. However, I previously mentioned it still doesn't feel like you can accurately place footsteps, particularly when there's a lot of them going on around you. Battlefield 2042 somehow did a magical job handling footsteps, and whatever they can learn from that implementation and bring it to BF6, I think they absolutely should. The audio is on the cusp of being fantastic, though, so that is great. Now, when it comes to visibility, the developers again have acknowledged this. There's already a soldier visibility filter in the game that doesn't appear to be doing too much. The lighting transitions inside buildings need to be addressed. The lighting in dark areas needs to be addressed. Players just need to be visible, guys. If it comes to it, add glow sticks to their uniforms. It's a nice sort of way where you can add a very small, non-gameplay destroying element that improves visibility, and if that's all they can do, that's all they can do. All I know is the visibility of the game certainly needs to be improved. It is definitely not where it should be right now. Another big one that I have to mention is the server browser. And guys, I'm just gonna be honest. You're not getting a fucking server browser, okay? I think the people that are screaming to the rooftops, add a server browser, add a server browser, I think those people are completely unaware that DICE just simply doesn't give a fuck, okay? In their eyes, there is already a server browser in Portal, and that's it. Expecting them to remove matchmaking, rework the UI, and rework the entire game to work through a server browser is incredibly unrealistic, and it is just simply not going to happen. And that isn't to say that I don't want it to happen. Of course, a server browser for the main game would be great. We did it with Battlefield 5, it worked out just fine. But it's not gonna happen, guys. I'm sorry. Give it up, okay? And now I'm gonna quickfire some things that can actually happen. Number one, make smoke grenades all class. Not sure why they made smoke grenades only available on support. What a stupid decision. Please make them all class. It is a non-lethal grenade that is essential to gameplay. Number two, add reticle customization. Just a great quality of life addition. Absolutely no downside adding it. Number three, nerf the fucking assault grenade launcher. Because let me tell you right now, the way the grenade launcher is right now is ridiculous because you can just use it like a shotgun in close quarters with absolutely no downsides. I have been barrel stuffed by this thing like a fucking shotgun, and the person that blew me up right in his face takes 0 damage and walks away. That can't happen. All they need to do is they need to add a arming distance for the grenade launcher so you can't use it like an explosive shotgun. That's it. And the last thing I'll mention in this section is please nerf the brightness of the flashlight. I get it, it's supposed to be bright, but it's a little ridiculous. It completely obscures the player model in close quarters. It just doesn't need to be that bright. So there you go. I'm sure I've left out some things people wanted me to mention, but I wrote down as much as I possibly could remember, and I got some things from the comment section. I hope you guys understand everything I was trying to convey in this video. Battlefield 6 can be a really good game. Unfortunately, I do think some of the ideal solutions are impossible, so we will have to see what they do to address things like vehicles and other large problem areas. But this is still Battlefield 6 early on. Other Battlefield games were in a significantly worse state at this point. So this isn't to say that Battlefield 6 is like hopeless or anything. I still think the game is in a decent state. And the problems are actually pretty straightforward. It's just the solutions are not as easy as I would hope they are. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, be sure to hit the sub button. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments section. Massive thank you to everyone that has subscribed in the past 3 or 4 months. We're already at 115,000 subs after hitting 100K. It's just been so crazy, guys. I passed 2,000 uploads recently on YouTube. I can't even believe that I've been doing it for that long at this point. It's just been absolutely nuts, and I really am excited to see where Battlefield 6 goes. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.